Well, hello, and welcome to the live stream. It's June, and I've just had a break, and also Project Cat has not quite decided that he wants to help me raise my statistics. But everyone knows that cat videos do far better than project management videos, so let's see if we can get a double dose here. This is actually technically my daughter's cat. This is Misty. Misty, say hello to the project managers out there. Yeah, he's not really interested. He's just woken up and he's bored. Welcome to you all. It's project planning day today. We've been kind of working our way through the 8 project performance domains of Pinbox 7, and we're on to project planning now. And the planning performance domain. Oh, Misty's just moved my microphone. And the planning performance domain. So that's really just a kind of hook for 8 topics, which saves me thinking through what we're going to do for the 8 months from March. I think we started. So, please look. Joseph said, "JY Misty, Jai Misty." Hello. Anyway, Misty's got far more fans than I have already. Please do join Joseph and say hello to Misty or to me in the chat. It's great to know who's on the call. I think we've got about. I get confused because different monitors are telling me different things. But we've got somewhere between 16 and 20 people on the call at the moment, which is absolutely fantastic for a Tuesday afternoon, a sunny Tuesday afternoon here in southern England. So hope you're having some good weather too. My camera's a bit crunchy, so I'm just going to turn down a setting here, try and reduce the crunchiness there, make it look a little bit more realistic, because I'm not crunchy. Well, at least I hope I'm not. Anyway, so what are we doing today? We're going to talk about project planning, and I'm going to answer a number of questions for you. And I've just realised I haven't got them in front of me, so let's just get them up, and I'll tell you what it is that we're going to talk about today. So. First, I'm going to talk about my secret sauce for projects that succeed. And in fact, that is my kind of 3-2-1 that I've been doing for the last few of these live streams. My 3 best tips, my 2 best tools, and my 1 best insight. I think tools is a very personal thing, and I'm not completely convinced that they're going to be the things that are going to really help your project succeed. They're the ones that I particularly like and enjoy using. But I think my 3 best tips will really help you build project plans that will help your projects to succeed. And I also have a best insight as well, which I think is going to be useful to you. Although some of you may know it because I have done a video, and it wasn't one of my most popular videos, and it's well over a year old. So we'll be sharing that with you. So who have we got? We've got Joseph Bibby. I don't recognise your name. Have you been on the live stream before? If you have, my apologies for not recognising your name. But do let me know kind of what part of the world you're in and what your involvement is with projects. We've also got Dan Splaining video. I'll declare an interest. I know Dan in the real world. Actually, I've never met him physically because he's in the US and I'm in the UK, but I know him, and he's got a fantastic channel which he's starting to grow and work on, where he does video effects and then explains how he does them in a subsequent video, and has some marvelous witty videos there, so do take a look at it. The only person I know who knows how to time travel. So thank you for joining the call, Dan. And Hambo Gumble, I'm not sure you've been on every single live stream that I've done, but you've been on many of them. So thanks for your support. Okay, Joseph, you're in India. Okay, that's a big old place. Yeah. If I say I'm in Britain, that kind of narrows it down to 3 countries and dozens of counties. But India, that's a whole order of magnitude bigger. So I wonder what part of India you're from. up to you to share if you wish. If you're on the call and you haven't put your name and said hello in the chat and you would like to, please do. And also, if you have any questions about project planning or project management in general, I'd be delighted to try and answer them for you. Look, Project Cat is getting bored and he's off having a stretch. Having trouble. No, oh, good grief, excuse me. No, do not bite that. That's £100 webcam. Right. Oh, we've got Nicholas here as well from Canada, French-speaking part of Canada. Also supports the channel a lot. Been on a lot of the calls. So that's great. Chadwick Grabinski from Indiana in the US. Now, vaguely familiar name, not sure but I think you might have been on one of these calls before. Chandigarh. Oh, right, that's where Joseph's from. And we've got the influential PMO who has a fantastic project management office channel here on YouTube. So after this, do have a look. And he's in Chesham. Oh, Chesham, right, okay. Now I know exactly where you are. And I think I knew that, but it didn't register. Okay. Top end of the purple one. Oh, God. When I was at school, some of my friends used to come in on it. And it's the Metropolitan line, isn't it? Okay, Douglas Pollen from London. Okay, so not a million miles from Cheshire. Chesham. Quite a long way from Cheshire, but not far from Chesham. Yep, I grew up in London, and you're geographically, I suppose, closest to Hamburg Gumbo, who I think is in East London, if I remember rightly. We've got Susan from Nairobi in Kenya. Fantastic. I think we've had someone on from Kenya, but I don't think it was you. On a previous call. HS from Wakefield and Jonathan from Peru. That is a first. I think it might be a first for the whole of South America. So welcome. Joseph says, I've been an incredible inspiration. You know what? That is what makes this whole thing worthwhile. You know, so it is my pleasure to create videos for you guys. And when I see some of the comments that I get on my videos, they really do warm my heart. I get students who say that I help them pass exams, whether they're high school, college exams, or professional exams, and I get people saying I wish they had me as their tutor, or they wish their tutor was as good as me. And you know what? Your tutor does not spend 5, 6, 7 hours creating a 5 to 10 minute lecture. I do. So I guess that's probably why. But yeah, the comments I get, they kind of really warm my heart. And Naman from Germany. Splendid. Wow, we're crossing continents here. So we've got Africa, we've got South America, we've got North America, we've got Europe. I think that's... Oh, and we've got India, which is South Asia. So that's five proper continents. That might be the most continents we've had on one of these live streams. So it's great to have you here. But I'm going to get into the content now because people who come to the replays, they're not part of the call. So I need to balance. Oh, Moldova. So then we've got Eastern Europe, we've got Western Europe over here with me and the others who are in the UK. And now we've got Western Europe. Fantastic, Moldova. So we're going to get into some content. I'll give you some content. And what I thought I would do is show you some thoughts about... Oh, what's going on here? Right. Come here. Right. Okay, good. So, yeah, I've gone to the wrong one again. So there's title. Yes, that's it. So this is the right one. My system's behaving very badly today. Apologies. Perhaps it's had a holiday too and it hasn't recovered from that. Anyway, let me share with you my screen now that I've done that. Come here. So slide deck. There we go. So project planning. That's our topic for today. And the first slide I want to share with you, is my top 10 project planning tools. Now, I did promise you my 2 top tools, and I will share those at the end. But there's actually so many project planning tools. This are the kind of top 10 project planning tools from the point of view of what are the ones you can't manage without. So they're not my top 2. They are, if you like, the generic top 10 that anyone who's going to be managing a project needs. The first project planning tools, the first 5 there, really do put some detail on project definition. So in the project definition stage, we kind of talk about what the project is and what it is not, and we define the goal, the objectives, and we start to talk about the scope, the breadth of the project, and the depth of the project. When we move into project planning, if you haven't already done so, now's the time to create a work breakdown structure. Whether you think about your work breakdown structure as a structured decomposition of all the tasks or the activities or the work that you need to do, or whether you think of it as a structured decomposition of the products that you're going to create into their component parts or their component elements, we need a work breakdown structure. And I think there are still a lot of serious project managers who do not give enough attention to the work breakdown structure, because without it, frankly, you can't create some of the really important implementation planning tools that we're going to talk about. When we're thinking about deliverables and going beyond the work breakdown structure, look at deliverables, I think we need specification sheets for everything we're going to deliver. Now, clearly, if we're working in an agile paradigm, we're not going to be using work breakdown structure, and we're certainly not going to create specification sheets. So maybe I need to update this and have an agile kind of view of it, where we would replace specification sheets, I guess, with user stories or epics for the big ones, so that you know what it is that you need to create. In scheduling terms, in time terms, the project definitional kind of level is the milestones. So whether you present it as a chart or a table, depends on whether you're kind of a wordy sort of a person or whether you're more into pictures. And then for budget, I think the easiest way to create a project budget for many projects is a cost breakdown structure. Take the work breakdown structure and cost each element, and then apply a contingency appropriately. Although there's a tool that we'll look at in a moment, that you can also adapt to create a project budget as well, which works particularly well for resource intensive projects with lots of people, and it's the sort of tool that we might use in a consulting environment. And then quality, I think you need a quality plan which talks about how you're going to assure quality, or quality assurance, or QA, and how you're going to control quality control, or QC. And as a quick reminder, quality assurance is the process of making sure you deliver to your quality specification, which should appear in your specification sheets, which therefore perhaps should have some quality design built in. Quality control is how you check afterwards that you have delivered, before you release your deliverables, to make sure that you deliver to the quality specification. And then the implementation planning tools, of course, the poster child for project management is the Gantt chart. The alternative to that is the network chart. Gantt charts and network charts, they look very different, but they present precisely the same information, but with a different focus. So the Gantt chart puts the focus on schedule, whereas the network chart puts the focus on sequence. But they contain all the same information. And here's the thing. To create a Gantt chart or a network chart in a robust, rigorous way with anything like a straightforward approach, you need first to have a full work breakdown structure. And it is, by the way, why I like to use the European approach to work breakdown structure, of creating a work breakdown structure based on tasks and activities rather than on products, because that then reads straight across to your Gantt chart or your network chart. You just basically take each item on your work breakdown structure, that becomes a box in your network chart. You link them up with your dependencies, and allocate or estimate the timing for each, and there you are. You've got your network chart and your Gantt chart pretty much ready built. And what people might say, do we do about products in your work breakdown structure if you've taken the European activity-based work breakdown structure? Well, at the end of the work breakdown structure, you could create a product breakdown structure, which is a product-based work breakdown structure, or you could simply take your activity-based work breakdown structure and show how products derive from the outcomes of the activities. So that creates an extra layer. Now, in terms of resourcing, we can use a RACI chart, otherwise known as a linear responsibility chart, which is what I grew up calling it, or an organization breakdown structure, which puts your resourcing against each work breakdown structure element. And again, that works best when you have an activity-based work breakdown structure, because then you resource each activity, you allocate resources to the activities. For communication, what I've got in there is a stakeholder communication plan, which is actually not what I'm going to name as one of my two top tools as the recommendations for you. I've got something that you may be less familiar with. But a stakeholder communication plan, and there's a great video on the channel, very successful video on the channel, how to create a stakeholder communication plan with my kind of 7 T's. Then governance. I think we need terms of reference for the key players in the project. I'm a big fan of good project governance, and I make a big deal out of it. And I will not apologise for that, even though I know a lot of people are turned off by the idea of governance. And then finally, risk register. One of the few tools I think is non-negotiable on any project where you are spending someone else's money and hazarding someone else's reputation. If you're doing a project for yourself, knock yourself out and do it without any concern about risks whatsoever. But if you are a custodian for someone else's money, if you are a custodian for someone else's reputation in doing the project, then you have to consider risk diligently. And the risk register is the tool that not only allows you to do that and to control the risk process and manage the risk process effectively, the risk register will also demonstrate that you have acted diligently. So if you've got questions on what I've just said, please do fire them at me. If you think I've missed something important off that list, and if you count carefully, you'll see there's actually more than 10 items on there. It depends on how you count, though, as to how many you get. But if you've got any other suggestions for that, please do hit me up, particularly if you come from an agile background, which I don't. Then let me know what tools you think are essential for agile-based projects, whilst I take a quick look at who else we've got on the call. So I think I said hello to Vadim from Moldova, but I haven't said hello to Badal from Bangladesh. So that's also Southeast Asia. Fantastic. Terrific. And Jessica Sibo, Jessica, we'll just call you Jessica, from Rwanda, because I don't speak any African languages, or indeed just about any languages other than British English. Happy to be here. Great to have you, Jessica. Again, lots of people, lots of names I don't recognise. So either you've lurked on previous calls and decided now's the time I'm going to say hello, or you're all new to the live stream. Either way, I am glad to have you here. I'm glad you're contributing. And as I say, I love, if you're new to the live stream, you won't know that I say this every time. If you're familiar with the live stream, you'll know I do. I love questions. I prepare these live streams. This is not off the cuff. I could do something off the cuff. I could talk about planning till the cows come home, but I like to prepare something so I keep it reasonably tight for you. Take care of your time. I prepared it, so I know what I'm going to say. So there's no real excitement for me. What's really exciting is actually finding a question that really tests me and challenges me, and I can then really kind of enjoy diving into that. And sometimes I will learn something new from your questions, as well as from your suggestions. Nicholas says, I've always worked with Gantt charts myself, and I prefer Gantt charts, but I am working with a client who presented a network chart for their part of the project. And in the context, it was a great plan because there are so many actors in the project, and the chart was organised by owner on the vertical axis. Okay, so that actually sounds like a network chart structured as a role activity diagram, because network charts, the two main project management conventions for network charts are critical path, CPM, critical path method, or CPA, critical path analysis, network charts, and PERT charts, which neither of which actually have any kind of organization by person. But there is a tool called a role activity diagram, which is a network chart of sorts, which shows usually is used to plot a sequence of activities and handoffs between individuals in different functions. When charting out processes, and I used to use those when we were doing process mapping when I was at Deloitte back in the early 90s, mid 90s, I guess, mid 90s, 96-ish. And so role activity diagrams basically have a series of vertical columns with the roles, and then you mark activities as nodes, and arrow and lines join those up, so you have a sequence of activities going from one node to another, and the nodes sit in a column that represents the person. And I realise this is all starting to sound like, oh, I'm a bit confused, so I'm just going to grab a pad. Find one. And I know the cat was chewing my other webcam, but I'm going to see if it's going to work. Oh, look, there it is. There's my notes for today, but I'm not going to show you those. Let's just get this overhead. Don't want to see those notes. Fresh sheet. Get it lined up reasonably well. Oh, look, you can see that. Put some extra light on it, I think. Oh, no, actually, it's kind of blown it out, hasn't it? Let's take the light off. That'll sort itself out. So, role activity diagram. Adjust my microphone. Let me just show you how RADs work. So, what you will have, let's just, and as I say, typically, oh, that's off the chart. There we go, off the page. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So so that's the top of the page that you can see. So when we used to use them, we might head up these columns as functions in the organization rather than as individuals, but you could label them as individuals or role holders. So let's call it role A, role B, role C, and role D. And then a sequence of activities or a process may start. I'll get another colour. It may start with the role holder of role B and then pass off to role C, and then they may pass it off to role D and role A, who then send it back to role B, I'll put the arrows on just to show the direction, and then role B might sign it off or make a decision. Yeah, there you are. I'll put a diamond in for a decision, and then which might be to send it back. If it's not satisfactory, and if it is satisfactory, to complete it. I can't remember what the correct symbols are, but I'll put a circle in there. So that's basically how role activity diagrams work, and from what Nicholas said, that sounds to me like what he's been seeing. I've never actually seen one in the context of presenting a project plan, I have to say, and I love it. I love it because, again, if you're familiar with the work that I do, my ideas, you'll know that I like the idea of taking tools, techniques, ideas from lots of different disciplines, lots of different contexts, and using them in project management if they help us. And it may be that the person who did this did it because that's what they know, or they may have done it because they thought that was the best tool for the job. But either way, it's great that we've kind of expanded our vocabulary of tools. So thank you for that. And Nicholas later says, then it was a role activity diagram, except that every row was a person group instead of every column. Okay, well, we can turn it on its side. I suppose you could have a network chart, or sorry, a Gantt chart vertically if you really wanted to. In fact, actually, some cultures read and write vertically, don't they? So potentially they might do that. There's nothing absolutely sacrosanct about left-right. Some cultures write right to left, which must be tricky if you've got wet ink and you're right-handed. But aside from that, it's purely whatever works. So thank you, Nicholas, for that. Chadwick says, WS and Gantt charts project planning takes too much time to develop and maintain. This is feedback I've received in the past from others. They've recommended I don't use these, to my dismay. Well, horses for courses. Sometimes you need to invest the time in order to get the results. So the question is, do the results justify the time that it takes? Because they're right. Well, they're not right that it takes too much time. That's a value judgment. They're right that it takes time to do them and to do them well. So your answer, I would suggest, Chadwick, would be something along the lines of, in my judgment, this is the best way to assure that we're able to deliver to schedule, and so therefore I consider the time that it takes to be a good investment. But before you give that answer, think it through. Is this, what I don't want anyone to do is to say, Gantt chart, key tool, must always have one. That's absolute nonsense. In fact, those of us who live in the UK, we had a government a good number of years back, which I thought at the time pretty good government, but they made one rather stupid thing. So the Minister, Secretary of State for Local Government and Housing and Planning issued an edict that every local plan process needed a project plan, which made sense, I suppose. But actually, possibly because the minister, more likely the civil servants working with the minister, only knew one type of project plan, instead of specifying that they must have a project plan, which I would agree with, they actually specified which type of project plan they thought that every council in the land should produce, which was a Gantt chart. And that's where I take issue, because it doesn't matter what sort of plan you use. If you create something that's fit for purpose, it could be any sort of plan, and frankly, a fool with a tool is still a fool. So it doesn't matter what tool you use. If you use it wrong, it's no use. If you use a tool that is appropriate and you use it well, then you'll get the result. So, Chadwick, if your considered opinion is that a work breakdown structure and a Gantt chart will give you the best chance of getting the results you're charged with getting, then you must argue from the point of risk management and confidence and certainty of delivery. But if you review what you're being asked to do and think there's a better way to do it, then that's your job as a project manager to make those choices. Okay, so Joseph says, hi again, Mike. How do you calculate contingency in the cost breakdown structure? Okay, that's a really good question. And the only way to answer that question is with a drawing again. So let's go back to the overhead camera, and I will try to answer that question. Let's move the mic around again. I've kind of zoomed out a bit so I can use a bit more space. So I'm going, and actually the honest answer is, it's probably not the question you're asking, but if I interpret your question strictly, you say, how do you calculate contingency? And the answer is, a cost breakdown structure won't calculate contingency. I'll get a dark pen. So let's draw a work breakdown structure schematically. I don't really care whether we're breaking down tasks or activities. I do kind of care that my black pen has died. We're swapping to blue, and I'm hoping that one is still alive. Oh god, this one's just as bad. I need to invest in some more dark markers. I'm going to have one more go at finding a marker. This one's made by Sharpie, so I'm hoping we're good. Oh, look at that. See? But now I need to get a full-size Sharpie. This one was a freebie from an exhibition or a conference. Going to a conference on Thursday. If any of you London or UK-based project managers are going to be in London on Thursday, this Thursday, for the APM conference, then please do let me know, and we'll meet up for a coffee during the conference. I'll be there. I know at least one person on this live stream is going to be at the competing on the same day, 2.5 miles away, PMO conference. So the APM conference is just to the west of Westminster. It's west of Westminster, south of the river, and then north of the river in the city, or just on the edge of the city, is the PMO conference. Anyway, enough of that. So if this is a work breakdown structure, and here's our project, and here are our work streams, and here's all our activities. Now, the first thing we do to create a cost breakdown structure is we ask ourselves, I'll try and be international in this, we've got people from all over, but we've only got one person from the US as far as I know, so I don't think we're going to use dollars. We've actually got people from Africa and, oh no, it looks like we got another. Anyway, I'm gonna go with euros on this one because I voted to stay. So we estimate the cost in euros for each item here, and then we add them up to get the euros at this level, and now we can now we've got an estimate of the cost of this whole work stream, and when we add the cost of these work streams, we get the project budget. Now, what Joseph says is, how do we do contingency? And the answer is, it depends on what you consider is appropriate. Now, the easiest way to do contingency is just to add a big X factor here. Oh, that slipped out of screen. And just say that's our contingency. Maybe X is 10% or 20%, I think might be better. I don't do that. Now, another way we can do contingency is we can say, well, let's add a little X there, and a little X there, and a little X there. And then that gives us a kind of middle-sized X on all of these, and then that becomes quite a big X, and that gives us our X there. That bottom-up approach to contingency then makes sure we've got a kind of calculated level of contingency at the top. I don't do that either, because that just takes too much work. The judgment you need to make, Joseph, is where is it best to apply contingency? And there are two ways you can do this. Now, firstly, you've got to recognise that in an organisational breakdown structure, we are allocating individuals to take responsibility at each level for things. These are these ones. This person here is our work stream lead. And so you could say, at what level am I delegating the budget? And therefore, you could delegate the contingency at that level. So you could delegate that. However, I tend to delegate contingency one level above budget ownership, except for the project manager, who has the contingency for the whole project. But then actually, I would say I would put budget responsibility as far down as I can. By the way, the project manager may have budget contingency, but they don't necessarily have control of the management reserve, which is a whole other bunch of cash. So I would probably say, let's make this individual responsible for their budget, for all of that, And then this individual is responsible for the contingency. Now, the benefit of that is that each work stream has a distinct characteristic and will have a distinct risk profile. And this is important because when you're thinking about contingency, budget contingency, it doesn't make sense to think about budget contingency without also thinking about risk profile. So let's just say that workstream 1 is low risk. Workstream 2 is high risk. Workstream 3 is low risk. And workstream 4 is medium risk. So I might allocate for these low risk work streams 10%. For the medium risk, 20%. And for the high risk, I might allocate 30% budget contingency. Now, our work streams may be responsible for that. Workstream leaders may be responsible for that contingency, or you may hold that contingency yourself. But what we are able to do is build in a contingency sum here, an X factor here, which is not a percentage of the total budget in the way that we've calculated it. It is based in a percentage of each element of the budget, which is based on risk. So my answer to Joseph, how to calculate contingency in a cost breakdown structure, is to figure out where you are best able to assess the risk profiles for a chunk of work, and then for each of those areas of the cost breakdown structure, allocate a proportion of contingency based on the level of risk, and then to accumulate the actual contingency amounts up to the full project budget level. Now, I hope I've explained that clearly. If I haven't, then Joseph, certainly you should let me know what you need me to explain more clearly, but anyone, please do. I am very mindful of the fact, firstly, that my pens aren't great, but secondly, that not all of you have English as a first language, and I might have gone through that quite quickly, so my apologies. I'm going to see what else we've got here. Let me just swap back to my main screen. Well, I'm going to look over to the side while I read the notes. Hambo Gumble says, I'm partial to action logs, as I probably spent most of my life using Excel. Yeah, I'm not a big personal user of action logs, but I do like them. And I think I may have said this on the stream before, but the action log format that you can download for free from the p3.express website. P3 Express is fantastic open source project management methodology that's broadly hybrid in nature. They have very few tools that they recommend using, and one of them is a kind of action log which covers risks and actions and decisions. So it's kind of like a RAID log. So yeah, and I know a lot of if you're a fan of the channel, you'll know that I'm doing a series of interviews with different project managers using the 3-2-1 format, 3 top tips, 2 top tools, and 1 big insight that changed everything. And a surprising number of them cite Excel as one of their 2 top tools. So you're in good company, Hambo. Nicholas says, was a role activity target? Yep, done that one. Thank you. Chadwick needs to jump off, but really appreciate me and my content. Thank you. Well, thank you, Chadwick, if you're watching this on replay. Clement CS, new name to the feed. Most projects I'm involved in use S-curve for progress monitoring based on schedule updates. How practical is the application of earned value management when cost estimate information is limited or restricted? Not much, because earned value management basically runs off cost and schedule, hard cost and schedule plans for which you need to do cost estimating. When Clement talks about S-curves, let me draw a picture of what he means by that. So what he's saying is that if that's the end of the project, and that's the start, and that's completion. Yeah, you can see that. My handwriting's rubbish, but you can see it. even if you can't read it. So that's 100%, and that's 0%. So the S curve is that, sometimes known as a sigmoid curve, because some people are posh and learnt Greek and Latin. Sigma is the Greek letter S. And basically what this suggests is that at the start of the project we don't achieve very much. Then there's a big period of time in the center of the project where we make a lot of progress quickly, and then we slow down as we kind of finalize things. And earned value management, not going to go into that now, big topic. There's videos on the site, on the channel, about earned value management. But basically earned value management is a way of tracking your progress against plan, but it takes into account both cost and schedule. So let's say you're ahead of schedule, but you've overspent your budget to get there by buying in resources. It answers the question, is that good value for money? But I don't believe you can do earned value management without estimates that you can rely on, whether they're cost estimates or schedule estimates, because you're just kind of guessing. Your estimates have to be good, and you have to have buy-in to them, I would say. Nicholas says, are 2 p.m. organisations having competing events at the same time? Yes, they are. Yes. Probably the two most prominent UK-based organisations, the Association of Project Management and House of PMO, which is much newer. So the Association of Project Management is the premier UK-based project management organisation. So it's kind of like PMI Light, but light only in the sense of number of members and geographic reach. In terms of its materials, I think it's every bit as good. In fact, I did a full review of the 7th edition of the APM body of knowledge when it came out. Let me here it is, and this is a fantastic book. It's a real source book. I would call it a source book. It's not a way of learning project management, but it's got loads of great resources for project managers. It's probably got an earned value management curve that I can show you briefly. Try not to, mustn't infringe on their copyright, of course. But page 190, I think, is where it's going to be. One of the nice things about it is got loads and loads of 2-page chapters which talk you through a topic, give you a really good diagram in many cases, and give you some references for further information in every case. There we go. Let's just give you a flash of this, because it's a great book. Read the review on my website. I'll find a link for it in a moment. But there you see, that's for those of you who are not familiar with earned value management. Here's our S curves kind of coming in. And we've got so this is our planned budget over time, and then this is the actual costs here. So if you can't rely, given that all the calculations are based on the distance between the actual cost line and the planned budget line, clearly if the planned budget line isn't reliable, then the distances from the actual cost line to that are not credible. They're not reliable. So it's not going to work for you. Back we go. Let's just I'll just have a quick look for the link to my review of the APM body of knowledge. It's like APM's books, I think, is somewhat overpriced, although the price of this came down by a big chunk about a year or so ago. Maybe that's just when I noticed it. So it is better value now. But if you're a serious project manager and you've got a budget for books, and you want a kind of source book, it's not going to teach you anything in detail, but it'll give you lots of good stuff. It's probably worth considering investing in. So have a read of the review. Bear with me 2 seconds while I type in. So I'll just pop into the chat that's a link to my review. Oh, I need to press send, don't I? That's a link to my review of the APM's Body of Knowledge. And they also produce loads of other great publications. And friend to the channel, Elizabeth Harron's written lots of them, but I don't have any of hers in printed format. Just have them as PDFs. But you know, you get all these kind of great things: Introduction to Program Management, Lens Collective, models to improve management of projects, co-directing change. These are just the ones I've picked up along the way, sponsoring change. But there are loads of them. So if you want to go deep into some particular topics, they, rather like PMI issues, it's kind of practice guides. They issue all sorts of great things from their special interest groups. They also commission writers like Elizabeth to do topic books. Her book on stakeholders, stakeholder engagement, is a great starter book for stakeholder engagement. It's a lighter, sort of higher level summary than my influence agenda book. Yes, Nicholas, it does seem like a project management failure that they've done that. And in fact, on Stuart, who's on the stream as well, is going to the PMO one. I'm going to the APM one. We're going to meet up beforehand, I hope, on Thursday. But yeah, I think I put in his LinkedIn or his on his YouTube channel that I thought that was pretty foolish. And he responded in like way. Clement says, cost estimate is done quarterly basis, but work breakdown structure for cost estimates is different from schedule work breakdown structure. Cost estimate is done on a quarterly basis. Well, yeah, you'll need to review your estimates, I guess. But you should probably also be reviewing your schedule estimates as well. Funny enough, this morning I was recording a video which will be coming out probably around September on what is baselining, but I'm sure you know what the answer is to that. But work breakdown structure for cost estimates is different from the schedule work breakdown structure. So now I'm not sure that you can actually use a work breakdown structure directly for scheduling. What you do is you estimate the time for each element, and then you add that to the dependencies, and that gives you the ability to create either a network chart or a Gantt chart or both. Monica, hi Mike. If you wrote a dissertation now, which topic would you be interested in? Wow, what a great question. So I've written 2 dissertations, three in my life, actual dissertations, all when I was doing my physics first and second degrees. So the main one being my PhD. Nobody's actually seen this, but let me get it. This thumping great thing is my PhD thesis. And I certainly wouldn't be able to write this now. I can't even read it now. I genuinely don't understand the maths in this anymore. I have not used the vector maths and quantum mechanics that's in this. But this is actually called Investigations of Orbital Textures in Helium-3A using Ultrasound and Computer Simulations. Helium-3A, it's the rare isotope of helium where you have to account for pretty much every atom that you use and recover them all. And I was working at millikelvin temperatures, so that's thousandths of a degree above absolute zero. If I were writing a dissertation now, well, actually, I live in a converted chapel in southern England, which has a date on the front, which is 1825. So 3 years' time, it's bicentennial. So I'm actually planning to write not a dissertation, but a pamphlet or a small short book or a monograph, if you want to be posh about it, about the history of this building. However, I probably wouldn't write a dissertation on physics. If you're asking about project management, if I'm going to do a dissertation on project management, actually, funnily enough, if you are a subscriber to my newsletter, if you're not, why aren't you? And I'll put a link. But if you're a subscriber to my newsletter, you'll know that recently I wrote about how I wanted to do some thinking about how do we reconcile multiple project management and portfolio management. Is there genuinely an overlap where we can learn new techniques? Because I'd read Elizabeth Harron's fantastic book, new book out. I'll put a link in the description. When I come off the call, managing multiple projects, and I also read Murali Kulatamani's book, The New Dynamics of Portfolio Management. That's not really focusing very well. Murali, of course, talked about that in an interview on this channel. And they both, in different places, have said, Murali said that you can use portfolio management ideas for managing multiple projects, even if they're not a coherent portfolio. Elizabeth has said that actually you can use the ideas of managing multiple projects and consider them to be multiple projects to be a portfolio. But in my newsletter a few weeks ago, I did say that I genuinely thought, that really both authors approached the topic that their title promises and answered the promise of the title very clearly, but neither really found anything kind of new in the centre ground, but maybe there is. So I kind of like to do some thinking about that and research and find that out. I'm also starting to think I need to be researching use of artificial intelligence in project management, because I think that's going to be big, but I don't think that's very dissertation worthy for me, because it's not really my hot topic. Joseph says, thank you for your response. So I will take it, and he says, perfect. So I will take it from that you understood my explanation of cost breakdown structures and applying contingency. Maxine says, very helpful, thank you. My pleasure. So how are we doing time-wise? We're coming up to the hour. I'm going to pop back to our... Come over here. Where's my mouse? To the slide deck and move on. Some of you may have seen this. There's a video about the planning process in which I use this diagram, and there's a download on that video. I should find that link. I think it might be already in the description, but if it isn't, it will be. So planning vid and Elizabeth's and Murali book. Good. And we also have the APM article. They all need to go in the description. So I'm going to just kind of whiz you through the planning process, because some of you may be grizzled old project managers who have done it all before and know this stuff, but others may not be, and so it may help you to see the whole planning process as a coherent single process, tying together the major planning tools that we've talked about. So let's see if my mouse shows up. It doesn't show up on the thing, so no way of doing a pointer here. That's something I need to figure out for a future stream. So on the left, we've got problems and opportunities. We've got the team's experience. We've got stakeholders' perceptions. And we've got the client's requirements. And all of those feed into scope. So scope is all the things we are going to do. Whether you think of them as things we're going to make or things we're going to do to make things, don't care. It's the breadth and the depth of your ambition for the project. That's what scope is. And then from scope, we formalize scope by creating a work breakdown structure. And then from our work breakdown structure, we know, either because we know all the tasks, so those tasks lead us to the products, or because we've broken down the products. It doesn't matter which way. The work breakdown structure allows us to create a schedule of deliverables, and from that schedule and merging that with the client's requirements, we're able to create specification sheets for each deliverable, and then from those a quality plan, and therefore that leads us towards our quality assurance and quality control processes and methods. Stuart says, got to shoot, but I'll leave with an offer. If you title your dissertation Our House in the Middle of the Street, I'll buy a copy of every book you've ever written. That's very tempting, just to bankrupt you, Stuart, but no. No, it's set back from the middle of our street. Anyway, back to business. So that's the kind of offshoot from the work breakdown structure to the deliverables. But as we've kind of seen, the work breakdown structure can lead us, if we go down the chart from the work breakdown structure to a cost breakdown structure, and indeed our contingency, and that leads us to our budget. The other thing we can create from a work breakdown structure, as I started to show, is you can allocate resources to that to create an organizational breakdown structure. But as I also started to say, once we've got our work breakdown structure, we can apply estimates of effort and duration to each item on our work breakdown structure. Effort is how much work it takes, and duration is how long it's going to take. So the thing that links effort and duration, of course, is resource. If you have one person applying, working for 1 week, you get 1 week's effort and a duration of 1 week. If you have 2 people working for a week, you have 2 weeks of effort but a duration of 1 week. So let's take that and move to, there we go, that effort and duration. Combined with the milestone chart, I should remind you where that milestone chart comes from. So the milestone chart comes from the client's requirement. The client may set deadlines for you, and that gives us your milestone view. So the milestone chart and the effort and duration, the time and the work required, along with dependencies between the tasks, allows us to create a network chart. And here you can see I've presented my network chart vertically rather than horizontally, just because it fits onto the picture better. But it doesn't matter. You can have your network chart flow down, or you can have it flow across the page. I guess you could flow it diagonally if you like. And as Nicholas has told us, you can use a role activity diagram format to actually set columns or rows to represent different resources or areas of the business. And typically from that, people tend to create Gantt charts. In fact, often we go straight from effort and duration and milestones straight to Gantt charts. But I like to think of the Gantt chart and the network chart as non-identical twins. They contain all the same information, but they look very different. Now, from the Gantt chart, we can create a stakeholder engagement plan and a communications plan, which is the communication side, but we can also assign resources to the tasks on our Gantt chart, and of course we do that from our organization breakdown structure, and that takes us to the next page. And we can level those resources and load balance to make sure that nobody is doing more than their fair share, make sure nobody's overloaded and can't literally do things. We can also take that resource and create a linear responsibility chart or a RACI chart. We'll talk about those in a minute. And of course, all of that, everything feeds into your risk register. So that is my kind of consolidated view of the planning process. So I hope that is helpful. Quite a quick kind of run through the entire planning process for a basic project plan. Sleeping bag gaming. Do you have any real examples of work breakdown structure for a large complex project you could share? No. No, because the large complex projects I did were for clients of my employer at the time, Deloitte, and it would not have been appropriate for me to keep them when I left Deloitte's employ, and it certainly wouldn't have been appropriate for me to share them. But I can tell you that one of the big projects I did in the UK, in London, I did the master plan planning process for the London congestion charge. That was a project that ran into the hundreds of millions of pounds over the course of about 2 to 3 years. Interestingly, we did produce a network chart, but we didn't use it. We used the Gantt chart for that. Sitting underneath it was indeed a work breakdown structure, but again, we didn't illustrate that in any way. But what I can tell you is we printed out the Gantt chart on A0 sheets of paper. So for those of you who are not European and therefore don't know the paper size system, this is A4. If you fold it in half, you take it and fold it in half, you get to A5. But if you take 2 A4 sheets and you put them together, you get A3. If you take two A3 sheets, put together, you get A2. If you take two A2 sheets together and put them together, you get A1, and the biggest paper size is two A1 sheets, which is A0, which is big. So we printed our Gantt chart on A0 sheets. We printed it, I can't remember whether it was 9 or 12 A0 sheets, but it was tiny little writing, and that was the Gantt chart for implementing the congestion charge. So unfortunately, can't understand. So Sleeping Bag says, I understand the theory of work breakdown structure, but I've never seen a good example of a work breakdown structure in a large project. Yeah, I mean, I guess you're not going to see them because, you know, unless you're working on a project, then they tend to be, you know, not only are they not tend to be shared because there's kind of confidentiality to them, but also once you've created it, it's a step in the process. We tend to use work breakdown structures in themselves. We use them as a stage to creating networks and Gantt charts, or more so in the US-based approach where they're product-based. The work breakdown structure dictionary is effectively a list of products, and therefore you hook specifications onto it. So, not surprised. What I would say is if you understand the theory but you're struggling with the practice of creating one, there is a full video on that on the channel as well. Let me see if I can find it for you. Computer's slow because I'm live streaming. You didn't need to be told that. Here we go. Oh look, we've got some spam. For Sleeping Bag Gaming, I've posted a link to my video on creating that. I'm just going to report what I'm going to report as pornography or sexually explicit material because it looks like it might be. Oh God, do I have to report 3 times? Right. And naked fun. Goodbye. This time I'm going to report you for unwanted commercial content and spam. There you are. Hit you for 2 things. I don't think there's any evidence of child abuse in that one. Anyway, I think I'm going to... I know Nicholas is a moderator. Hambo, you come on this call a lot, so I'm going to give you moderator rights. Which means that if you see what you believe is inappropriate content, you or Nicholas, and you feel it shouldn't be there, I trust your judgment, and you think I haven't noticed it, do just report it and get rid of it. Anyway, Sleeping Bag Gaming worked as a project manager for 2 years and has just finished a project management degree. Okay, you don't need to know how to create work breakdown structure in the UK, but no one seems to use them or have examples they can share. Yet not enough people use them, I would say, but I think people do. But yeah, I think you will have to find a working project manager who feels that the project they're working on isn't sensitive and can let you have one. I'm not actually a working project manager anymore. I create work breakdown structures, small ones for training purposes, for illustration purposes, but a real one for a big project, which is what you want, I don't have one, and I don't know where I'd go and get one. So I guess you just need to keep your eyes out. Amber Gumbo rubs hands. Think of a party and have the date of the shindig at the start point and the work backwards with the venue and all the bits needed. Yeah, I think Sleeping Bag probably knows how to create one. Hambo's response probably came before Sleeping Bag said that he'd been doing project management for 2 years. And again, you know, party is a great way of learning project management to illustrate the basics. But of course, the work breakdown structure you would get in a training environment for creating a work breakdown structure is going to be quite simple. It's not going to be a real world one. By the way, when I got married, my wife, we were planning the wedding, and my wife said, if I see a Gantt chart, the wedding's off. So I said, well, you know, off you go, plan it. And at some point when she realised she needed a bit of help because planning isn't her strength, but it is mine. Remembering the Gantt chart comment and actually recognizing the Gantt chart wasn't going to be the most useful tool. What I did do was create a work breakdown structure, and then we divided up the tasks between ourselves and occasionally friends, and so work breakdown structure is a great tool. For years I've been using planning a wedding as a workshop example for creating work breakdown structure, and then I had to plan my own wedding using a work breakdown structure, so it does work. Now, NIAMS, I'm not sure how you pronounce that name, but has 2 questions. I've done a Prince 2. Do you think I should do PMP certification? Don't know, but I'll answer that better when I've read question 2. With regard to people management, how do you deal with people not pulling their weight and causing delays? Great question. Okay, so Prince 2, do you think I should do PMP certification? My answer is why? Why would you do it? That's not a kind of grumpy why. Oh, why would you do that? That's actually, what is your reasoning? My answer to every question about doing a certification, studying a subject is, you're a project manager, so do a business case. Ask yourself, what are the costs and the time commitments it involves? What are the benefits that you foresee? And do the benefits outweigh the costs? Simple as that. If you believe that PMP will give you access to more, better, higher paid jobs, easier into the kind of jobs you want, then it's worth it. It's a great investment. If you think, if you're going to work in the UK, for example, largely on government projects, then Prince 2 is exactly the right qualification. PMI won't, as a certification, won't help you, because central government or local government in the UK doesn't value PMI certification particularly, but it does value Prince 2. So just think about what you want to do with your career, where you want to go. Now, the other reason you might do a PMP is for the pride of it and for the process of learning PMI's approach to project management. Perfectly good reason for doing it. You don't need to do the certification to read the manuals and to follow the syllabus. The syllabus is published. You can download it. I've got a copy of it behind me, and you can follow the syllabus. So, all strength to you if you just want to follow the syllabus and make sure that there are, look at the syllabus and say, are there elements there that I don't know about? Prince 2 is quite a limited syllabus. It teaches you to do project management the Prince 2 way. It doesn't teach you project management. It doesn't teach you any of the interesting, useful other things around projects. So it's great. It's great to do other topics as well. Now, your other question is much harder: how to deal with people not pulling their weight and causing delay. Now, I'm trying to remember who it was I interviewed. Because I'm doing a series of interviews under the title Agony Angels, where I interview an experienced project manager. We pick a question at random from the community, and they answer it, and I throw in my ideas. And one of those questions was exactly that. So let me call up one of my folders to find out who it was, and then we can find out whether it's actually been published yet. So, Agony Angels. I think it might actually have been. It was Stuart Taylor, who just had to leave the call. Now the question is not pulling their weight actually published yet? It's not. So I can't do the easy thing and point you to a video where Stuart answers it. But it's a big topic. Could spend a lot of time, but I want to give you some real value. So what I would say is, how do you deal with people not pulling their weight and causing delays? First thing is find out why they're not pulling their weight. Is it because they don't have the skills? Is it because they don't have the motivation? Is it because they want to be disruptive, which is very rare? Is it because they don't actually understand what you're asking them to do? Actually talk to them and listen to their answers. And then adjust your approach accordingly. If, for example, they're not motivated, then let them see the reason why the project's important. Do everything you can to motivate them. If they don't understand what you're asking, be clearer. If they don't understand how to do it, then explain. or give them assign someone to help them, to mentor them, to coach them through it. There are so many different reasons why someone might not be pulling their weight and causing delays. It may be something that they're not well suited to for whatever reason. And a simple swap of role, listening to them about what they want to be doing, finding someone who is keen to do the role they're doing, could be a simple fix. There are so many different approaches, but if you know why they're not pulling their weight or causing delays, and I'm not talking about why you think they're not pulling their weight. If you actually know why they're not pulling their weight because you've spoken to them and you understand that, then let me know, and I can see if I can give you more a clearer answer. Sleeping Bag Gaming. I'm shortly moving out of project management and into a delivery lead role. Any tips on moving from waterfall to agile? I understand the fundamentals, but I have only run one agile project in the past. To be absolutely honest, you've run one more agile project than I have. I've not made that transition myself. I would say talk to agile project managers, use some of the really good resources online, particularly some of the great agile project management channels. If you're going to a Scrum environment, then Alexis Allen has loads of great tips. But get yourself some good quality training, I would say, so that you understand more than the fundamentals, and get yourself an agile coach or a Scrum coach. That's the best thing you can do. Someone who has been there, done it, knows all the wrinkles, and can coach you in such a way that they can give you what you need when you need it, but not over-coach you to the extent that they're effectively taking away your ability to learn for yourself. So that's my top tip, is find yourself a coach. Hi Mike, what's the best way? This is brilliant. This is the first live stream we've done with. We've got loads of questions and I'm loving it. I hope it's of value to you. Hi Mike, what's the best way of getting benefits owners identified in the business and on board, committed, etc.? Okay, so we want to find the people who are going to own the benefits and get them onto the project and committed to it. I know the full answer might be a long one, but any key pointers would be appreciated. Yeah, great. Once they named me, wasn't. Once they named me, I wasn't. What a fantastic handle. So, best way of getting benefits owners identified. The benefits owners should be the people whose area of business will benefit, and therefore they genuinely have a benefit from it. But my top tip actually is, it's rather like, people can sort of say, I can't find anyone to sponsor my project. Well, don't do the project. Just stop. Because if no one is prepared to sponsor it, then nobody wants it enough. Likewise, if there are the people whose service areas, business areas, functions, regions that are going to benefit from the project, if they cannot find the motivation to act as benefits owner for that project, then they don't really care enough about the benefits. So just, say, right, well, until we get the benefits owner, the project's not going to go ahead. If there's no benefits owner, then there are no benefits. If there's no benefits, there's no project. Simple as that. You put it on the line. So that's one approach. Another approach is, if you don't feel you have the authority within the organisation to do that, I would say the next thing to do is go to the top and as high as you can say, look, we've got a project, it's going to produce benefits, we're fairly sure, but nobody's prepared to sponsor those benefits, to be the benefits owners for the different areas, and propose to the senior person that their business or their area of the business is going to depend on you achieving those benefits, and achieving those benefits is going to depend on ownership and a deep understanding of what those benefits are going to be. The method that I talk about in my benefits management course, link coming up in a moment. Benefits management course, because this one's actually one of my favourite courses. Funnily enough, someone left a comment in the benefits management course a couple of months ago. I had a holiday and had a lot of work on, but I answered the comment straight away. They requested an extra resource. Or suggested an extra resource, requested it as well, and I just produced that this morning for them and added it. So this is a course that is continuously growing with new content as people suggest it. It's one of my favourite courses, and it's my best-selling course outside my core courses. So the benefits management course, what I basically say is that you get the people whose businesses lines are going to benefit from it, you get them to set their teams to work, figuring out, if we deliver this project, what benefit their part of the business will get. And you say, look, if we can't get enough benefits from all of the different parts of the business, we can't run the project because there is no benefits case. Once you build the benefits case, you get them to sign off that their teams have contributed estimates that they will stand by and be held accountable for. And the way that we did this on one project I led was we got all this, actually these were quite senior directors, into a room. We produced a printed copy of the business case, the benefits case, that they had all seen and read and claimed to have signed off their component that their teams had worked on. And we then passed it around and asked them to sign on the cover to say that they approved the element relating to their part of the business, and that became a board document, and the board considered it periodically to see how the benefits realisation was going. So skin in the game is the expression we used to use back in the 90s, and it really does focus the mind. But if you can't find enough people to really support the benefits, then the business doesn't want it enough. Don't waste your time giving it to them. How would you manage scope creep throughout project execution in Gantt chart? You don't. Gantt chart's not the tool for that. Gantt chart doesn't relate scope. As scope changes, so how about adding contingencies, extending duration in advance during planning stage? Okay, you can add contingencies into your Gantt chart. I prefer not to add contingencies to each activity, but to cluster my activities and then have a period during the project where lots of work streams kind of finish and then allow a little contingency time. Those periods of time between the end of one load of work streams and the start of the next load of work streams is what I call islands of stability. It's basically it's my version of critical chain planning. But you don't manage scope creep through project execution. You manage scope creep through change control, of course. Basically, you only allow the scope to change in a controlled way with approval, and that's about business case. And part of the business case is this is the implication for the baseline schedule, this is the implication for the baseline budget, this is the implication for the baseline scope, this is the implication for the functionality, for the quality, and all of that. And if all of that is acceptable to the decision makers, you've already rethought the scope change. Therefore, what do you do with your Gantt chart? Well, it depends how big it is. You either create a revised project plan but stick with the same baseline, or you re-baseline the whole project. EA. There's lots of new names. This is fantastic. EA says, how do you deal with members on a project team that do not seem to get along and it's causing communication blocks, which is affecting the progress of the project? Okay, you can't make people get along, and it's not your job to make friends, but it is your job to create harmony to the extent that communication is good. So you lay it on the line and say, I don't care whether you guys hate each other, you still need to communicate project stuff. You can shift people around a bit, as long as you don't appear to be creating rewards for bad behaviour in the reassignments that you create. Nor, indeed, actually, should you be seen to punish people for personal disputes if they keep those personal disputes between themselves and at a professional level. Oh, good grief, the adult dating site is back. Oh, thank you, Hambo. Good job. Well done. I've just gone through and deleted them. Brilliant. I think I made it. This is the first time I've had spam on a live stream, so I've reached a level. I don't want them there. I want you there because you're all interested in what we're talking about and contributing really well today. Thank you. Yeah, you don't want to be seen to punish people for personal disputes either, but you do need to create harmony. The other thing that how does the internet survive when one data center goes out? It survives because the internet is a network and there are lots of multiple routes. And I think in project communication terms, creating that, and so making people's responsibility to communicate widely and communicate with a central repository of status information, those sorts of things mean that I don't have to communicate with you if I'm communicating with everybody via a tool. So that's another approach that you can take. But you could get into mediation, I suppose, and certainly if it's being disruptive to the project, then kind of look up mediation and find out the basic processes of mediation. You don't need to be a skilled mediator to mediate small gripes, but you do need to find out how it works. If you need to call in a mediator, that's a big deal. Right, where are we now? So the marvelously titled "Once They Named Me, I Wasn't." Agreed. Oh gosh, what are you agreeing with? You asked the question on getting benefits owners on board. Agreed. Agree with Mike, and also Prince 2. Oh, hang on. Agree with Mike. Also, Prince 2 Agile is great for the best of both worlds for blending. Really practical. Interestingly, I did a video on what is Prince 2 Agile, and yes, on the face of it, that is exactly right. That's, you know, Prince 2 is broadly hybrid. It doesn't actually. People think Prince 2 reads like a. Let's get the Prince 2 manual out. People think Prince 2 reads like it's a traditional project management, and it certainly stems from the days when that's all there was traditional predictive project management. I haven't got the Agile handbook yet. I know that some practitioners kind of view the Agile Prince 2 Agile as being effectively a rebranding of Prince 2 that repeats a lot, but puts the Agile label on it, and it's really a marketing thing for Axelos, as was. My view, though, and not having studied the Prince 2 handbook, though, is that, you know, if you want to see the Agile bit brought out explicitly, then it is really useful. And it seems that once they name me, I'll use the short form because you are. Once they name me, seems to, from their experience, seems to think that the Prince 2 Agile is useful. So that's a good tip. Thank you. How useful is Six Sigma? Asks Sambo Gumbo. It's very useful in the right contexts. Again, it's not something I'm an expert in any way. I've not practiced Six Sigma, not got any of my belts. Got a black belt in Aikido, but not in Six Sigma. Six Sigma is for dealing with errors and mistakes and building quality into a production environment. So I don't really think it's primarily a project management methodology, but the Six Sigma tool set is full of great tools. Like I think DMAIC comes from that, which is a problem-solving methodology, or is it the 5Ds? I think it's DMAIC. So Six Sigma is a great thing to learn about because it will give you loads of tools, but as a project management tool set, it isn't a project management tool set, but lots of the tools are good, useful tools for project managers. Can't remember, it's ages since I've looked at Six Sigma, so I can't remember what tools are in there. Oh, look, Naked Fun is back. Right. Nicholas, I highly recommend Mike's Project Benefits course. Thank you very much, Nicholas. I do too. Dansplaining video. Would the Project Benefits course be beneficial for someone who's not a project manager? Depends what you want from it, really. I think say more about what you want from it. Dansplaining video, Dan. But also you have my contact details, so if you've got something you particularly want, then just hit me up on email, or we can have a sidebar next time we're in the same call. I'm not sure what you might want it for. Yes, it's beneficial because it's learning, but it's designed for managing project benefits. If you're a program manager, yes. If you want to get benefits from the things you do in a business environment, could well be useful to you. I'm not sure what you do outside of your YouTube world, and I'm not sure how useful it would be in your YouTube world, frankly. So, yeah, tell me more and I'll try and be more specific. Clement says thanks, not sure what for, but the scope creep question, good. John Hoyle, another new name, I think. Really appreciate your content. Nice to have you live. Nice seeing you live. Yeah, great. Well, it's great to have you on the call. This has been, I think, my most fun call yet. Naked fun aside, you are the best. Okay. Second only to naked fun. Yeah. Let's move on. Sleeping Bag Gaming. This is the last comment that's here at the moment. Your videos are used throughout all of my university modules, so guess my uni lecturers think that you've made it too. Oh, that's really nice to hear. There are lots of university and college courses using different videos of mine. Some of them have even paid to access them to get clean copies that they can put on their system and not use them via YouTube. So that's really pleasing. Awesome session. Great. So I'm going to kind of wrap the session now. I'm going to go back to because I need to give you my tips, don't I? Oh gosh, we're running late. Let's go back to the slide deck and let's give you my tips. So my three top tips. So my first tip is you need a better plan, and the best way to get a better plan, more brains gives you a better plan, and therefore engage your team in creating a plan. Don't try and create it all on your own. As many and one way I like to create a plan for a big project is create the top level of the work breakdown structure. This is how we did it on the London congestion charge. Build your teams, and then get the workstream leads to plan their workstream with their teams, and then your role, working with the workstream leads, is to iron out the overlaps and the gaps between the work that the workstream leaders have done. Have they missed something between them? Are there any things that don't sit properly in any of the work streams? Are there things that two different workstream leads think belongs in their own workstream, but actually you need to make a decision where it belongs? So create that distributed effort with the workstream leaders leading the planning and engaging their teams, and consult your stakeholders and your customers and your users, because the more different perspectives you get, then the better your plan will be. And also that's part of the process of expectation management. You know, your stakeholders contribute to the plan. They got a realistic expectation of what it is you're going to produce. My second top tip is to build a robust plan, and that means stress testing it. And the three suggestions I have for stress testing it: firstly, scenarios. Throw scenarios at it. What if this happens? Or what if that happens? So look at the assumptions you've made and ask how your plan would survive or perform under alternatives to the assumptions that you've made. Second way to stress test it is with the pre-mortem process. Now, pre-mortem process was developed by Gary Klein. This is another tool that isn't a project management tool, but is fantastic. Gary Klein's a consultant who writes about decision theory and judgment, and his books are really good. Let's just go back for a moment. This is the full Monty, Sources of Power, big, thick, serious, heavy book. The lighter weight version is The Power of Intuition. So we've got Sources of Power and The Power of Intuition. These are great books. But the pre-mortem process basically says the problem with planning and looking for faults in our plan is we assume the plan is broadly right, so we're looking for minor errors on the plan rather than big deviations, because we're working forward from today. What he suggests we should do is get a group of people together and say, just imagine it's go live day. Let's just say we've delivered our project and it's been a complete catastrophe. So I want you to imagine it's a complete catastrophe and then write down on a piece of paper what you think the catastrophe is. And people will just conjure up all sorts of catastrophes. So you get those and you do an affinity map, basically put all the ideas that are similar together, and then you might end up with 3 or 4 major types of catastrophe. And then you look at them one at a time. For each catastrophe, you say, right, given that catastrophe, what would have caused it? What could create that catastrophe? What are the things that could create that catastrophe? And then you do something like the 5 whys approach of saying, well, why would that have happened? And why would that have happened? And you go back to the root cause or possible root causes for each of the catastrophes. And that gives you a really deep understanding of where your plan can go wrong right from the beginning. So it's a good risk management, risk identification process, but it's actually great for building a robust plan. And the third approach is a red team. Get some smart people together and get them to tear the plan apart. Get them to look at the plan, say, how would you do it? What are the errors in this? And the red team can approach it in 2 ways. One is they can produce their own plan and you can compare it. And if an independently produced plan from an independent bunch of people who have made their own assumptions looks very similar to your plan, then chances are increased that the plan's robust. The other way, and of course, if they come up with a different plan, then you know that you've made some wrong assumptions, or one of you's made some wrong assumptions, and you can examine them. The other way the red team can do it is to say, look, here's our plan, pull it to shreds, find every conceivable mistake, every conceivable false assumption, pull it apart, critique it, and then we can then work on all of your findings to make a better plan. Let's go back to the slide deck because I want to talk about the third top tip, which is what I call overstrength. And we've actually talked about overstrength already, because overstrength is just making sure you've got plenty of contingency. Foresee trouble and create a contingency plan. What will happen if? Allow extra contingency budget, contingency time, contingency resources. That's contingency. And I've sort of mentioned this when we talked about Gantt charts, structure in fire breaks, contingency periods between completing one work stream and starting another. So those are my 3 top tips. What are my 2 top tools? Well, the first of them is actually not going to be a surprise to people who kind of have heard me talk about this before, because I mentioned it. It's the linear responsibility chart, what I grew up calling a linear responsibility chart. Nowadays, what is known as a RACI chart is actually a linear responsibility chart. Traditional RACI charts are structured differently, but when I did my more recent video on RACI charts, which is how to build a RACI chart, I actually built the linear responsibility chart version of it. This is absolutely fantastic tool, especially for people who don't like Gantt charts. So who was it? I think it might have been Clement, but it might not have been. It might have been someone else. And I've lost my mouse again. Where's my mouse gone? I'm going to click something to see if I can find. Oh, there it is. My mouse doesn't like spanning 2 screens. Can I find who it was that said? My boss says. Oh, it was Chadwick, and I think he might have come off the call. But WBS and Gantt chart project planning takes too much time. Maybe a linear responsibility chart will help. So let me find the article on, or not the article. The video on how to create a RACI chart, because this is just a brilliant tool, and if you don't use this version of a RACI chart, which is really a linear responsibility chart, then you are missing out on one of the most useful tools in your toolkit. So take a look at this video here. There we go. So that's the first of my 2 top tools. The second one is a little less commonly referred to. It's a message calendar. At the start of your project, create a calendar of messages that are going out to stakeholders. This isn't a communications plan which puts the emphasis on what messages are going out. It's a message calendar which puts the emphasis on what are we going to be saying this week, what are we going to be saying next week, or even what are we going to be saying today, what are we going to say tomorrow. And this is something that politicians use, and it's not a lot I like about politicians as a profession, or political advisors as a profession, but the message calendar, the idea of actually having a calendar and populating, in principle, every day with the messages you're going to be putting out and who you're going to be putting out to, is a great way to plan a project, particularly one that needs to win hearts and minds and inform people, a large number of people. So if you're starting a big program of work across a large organization, a message calendar is a fantastic tool. one of the big projects I did, perhaps the biggest in many ways, was certainly not the most expensive, but the biggest part of my career, was preparing a UK blue chip company, FTSE 100 company, for the year 2000. It was a 2.5-year program, spanned the globe, from the UK to Australia, via the US and Europe, and one of the first things I did when I took over management of the project was to create a message calendar to make sure that the thousands of employees of the organisation that needed to know about this were kept informed. So that's a brilliant tool, and I absolutely can't recommend this enough for the right projects. It's not the right tool for every circumstance, but when you need it, it is brilliant. So add it to your toolkit. So finally, what is my one most important insight? Well, that is all about what is the most important deliverable that comes from your project planning process. And some of you may know the answer to this, or the answer that I'm going to give, because you may have seen the video. But this wasn't a hugely popular video. The answer that I gave in that video, actually, does anybody know? Does anybody want to pop into the chat? We'll wait for the 20-odd second delay. Does anyone want to pop in the chat what you think is the most important deliverable from the planning process? No, nothing coming through. Let's just see if I can find the... Can't find the video now. Anyway, so to me, the single most important deliverable of the project planning process is confidence. Why do we create a project plan? Is to create confidence. Now, some people might say, okay, but that's not a deliverable, but it is, because confidence is something that is a real, genuine, tangible change in the project and in the people around you. We create a project plans to give confidence to the team that they know what they're doing, to create confidence in the team and the stakeholders that what they are doing is right. It's going to produce the results. And it creates confidence in your client, your boss, your sponsor, your project owners, that you are in control of the project. Now, some people would say that project plans are also about certainty, and isn't that more valuable? And my answer to that is you can't create certainty with a project plan. All a plan can do is show you one chain of events in the future. It's not certain by any means. So we've got some guesses. Clarity, plan, business case. Yes, the most important deliverable for the project planning process is a plan. I suppose it is, yes, because it's the plan itself. But no, it's confidence. You don't get certainty from a plan, because reality will not, the universe will not respect your plan. It will just kick it in the teeth, but it does give confidence along the way. So that's my real insight. The purpose of project planning may not be all about creating confidence, but the most valuable thing, the most important deliverable it creates, is that confidence. So to wrap up, because I've gone on longer than I normally would, as always, I've written about the project management domain of the 7th edition of the PMBOK guide in a full-sized article on the website. Let's just give you a link to that. There's one. The link is actually in the description, but I'll add it to the chat. There you go. It's in the chat. And as always, I have... Oops, we've slipped a page here. go back to where you were going to go back to. As always, I've also created an ebook, Kindle exclusive ebook, which is now available. The link is in the description below to this ebook, from which you can buy it. This includes an article about what the project performance domains are in the Pinbox 7. It includes an article about Pinbox 7's performance domain, which tells you what's in it. It also gives you my assessment of it and what's good and bad and about it, and what I would include that it doesn't include. I talk about definitions, and the ebook also contains about 8 other chapters about different aspects of project planning. So if you want to learn about project planning, that ebook is a great way to go. Let me grab the link for that. No, I keep pressing the wrong thing. Stop. Resources. Project management. There we go. Press the right button this time. So I'll give you a link to a page which shows all of the ebooks that are available. Not all of them have come out yet, because of course I'm working through them one a month through this year, but the 4th one is now out. So you can now get access to the stakeholders domain, the team domain, the development approach domain, and the planning domain. Next up, by the way, is the rather awkward project works domain, which I think is probably the weakest of them all. So that's going to be a fun live stream as I find a way to talk about that. So take a look at that ebook, and as I say, it's one of 8 that will be available by the end of the year. Members of my annual members of either my friends tier or partner tier or leader tier membership program get these for free in PDF format, by the way. And finally, because we've been talking about planning, and I don't have a course on planning, but planning is an important part of core project management. If you want to learn core project management, as you may or may not know, this year, from the start of this year, I halved the prices of all my core project management programs, and said I would not be giving general discounts to the world, but I do still like giving loyalty discounts. You've all turned up, you've all been loyal to the channel, you've all given to the channel by asking good questions that other people can benefit from. So for 10 days till midnight UK time on the 17th of June, so 10 days, so that's Friday week, but don't wait till the end. If you go to school.onlinepmcourses.com and you want to buy either the Skills Mastery Program, which is, if you like, the large course, which is about 7 hours of video content, taking you through the whole project management process, or the very large, the extra large Project Management Immersion Program, you can get 20% or even a 25% discount on those using the codes there. The link and the codes are also in the description below. So if you're interested in those courses, do take a look at them. Those will take you through the basic project management process in my way. So if you like my style and you like videos with me in front of a camera with diagrams behind me talking about these things, then that's the way to go. That's what you get. So if there are any last questions, I'm happy to hang on and answer them, but I've taken up more of your time than I intended to. So let's see what we've got. We've got some guesses. Not guesses, actually. They're opinions, I guess, I think. Clarity, most important thing. I think that's really valuable. Good answer. The plan is, of course, the deliverable from the planning process. People think, of lots of plans, but the plan is the accumulation of the plans. Hambo suggests business case, a very important component of the plan. Direction of the project, I think, actually comes from the definition rather than the planning stage, but that's just me. Once they were named BC business case, I guess. To Dansplaining, I would rather have the Skills Mastery Program over the Benefits Management course. before having the immersion program. That's my take on your question. Yeah, I mean, I think we need to. I need to understand what Dan's explaining, or Dan wants from the benefits management course. What he thinks is in there that might be for him, and then I can help him decide whether it would be a good investment. The main difference between skills mastery and the immersion program is volume. The skills mastery gives you all you need to basically manage projects. The immersion program gives you lots of additional stuff that will give you more resources, more tools, more ideas, more understanding. So it's about twice the amount of content. Its basic price is twice the price, but with the extra discount, it's better value. Joseph, 11 p.m. here in India. Yes, time for bed. Yeah, because India's got that kind of extra half hour, 5.5 hours ahead of us. So yeah, thank you so much. He says, you're very welcome. Enjoy your much needed sleep. Niams says, thanks for the session. This is my first one. Looking forward to more. First Tuesday of every month, 5 p.m. UK time, which in the summer is 4 p.m. UTC. In the winter, it's 5 p.m. UTC. Dansplaining, message retracted. Do feel free to get in touch with me directly, Dan. In fact, I'll put my email address. Let's hope I spelt it right. I'll have a quick look. Any of you can email me with specific questions. If you need to. Happy to do that for my community. Obviously, Naked HD Fun, best adult dating site. Please don't email me. Don't care. Don't want it. And whoever suggested I'm next best thing to Naked Fun, not sure. So yeah, please do feel free to get in touch. I'm going to sign off now and let Joseph get some much needed sleep. Dan gets some much needed breakfast, lunch, not sure which part of the US you're in. And so, yeah, take care one and all, and I will see you next time. First Tuesday in July, when we'll be talking about the project work and some of the things included in the project work domain, which I should, by the way, give you a bit of a highlight for what is in the project work domain. So let me just remind myself as I flick through quickly the Pinbot Guide 7th edition. What's in the project work domain? Why can I not find the start of the domain? Here we go. Project work forms domain. So this includes things like balancing constraints, maintaining project team focus, communication and engagement, managing resources, working with procurement, monitoring new work and changes. So it's a mishmash of stuff that didn't fit in elsewhere, which is why I think it's the weakest of the domains. So I will use it as a way of riffing on some ideas that I think are important in project management, probably. So I'll see you all in a month's time, unless I see you before. Take care and thank you. And I'll be checking the chat once I sign off for a few minutes as well.